If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is VSiN By The Books on VSiN, the sports betting network.
We begin the Tuesday morning edition. It is VSiN By The Books. Dave Ross alongside Jensen Lewis. I'm here downtown Las Vegas at Circus Sports. He is back home in Cleveland, Ohio. Jensen, how are we doing on this Tuesday morning, my friend?
We are great. Awesome start to the week. It felt like yesterday we kind of caught our collective playoff breath, right? And knowing that we had the day off for basketball and hockey, we had some baseball, got to kind of recap what happened in the PGA. And yeah, let's go, man, because we got a big week. College baseball conference tournament week. We got Cinderella season coming up for Torpedo Bat Tuesday, Daily Diamond, yet again in the green from yesterday. So a lot of fun, a lot of info here the next 3 hours.
And a great guest list as well on this Tuesday morning. Going to have Matt Youmans join us here in hour number one. Always love catching up with Matt. Paul Caponegri is going to join us here to break down the Final Four, certainly in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Colby Marcio is going to join us here in hour number three to kick that off, to talk more Major League Baseball. And then our own JVT as well will join us. So a great guest list here. But I want to give a shout out very quickly, Jensen, to the guys here at Circa, because yesterday when you and I get off the air, I go to get ready to get home and tape the GM Shuffle. Shout out to Jeff Schwartz. We'll play a little clip of that in tomorrow's show. And you go to start up the car. Battery dead, Jensen. I'm dead.
Oh, no.
Right here at Circa. I got about an hour. Got to get back to record the show. And I'm thinking, oh, my goodness, what am I going to do? Maybe I could do it here from Circa. The guys here hooked it up, valet, jump-started it, got home, no problem. So sometimes, Jensen, it's the little things that are the big things in life. Took it to the dealership, got it all taken care of. Stress-free morning today. They made it stress-free yesterday. The guys here at Derek Stevens and the men and women that work here at Circa do a great job, so I really appreciate that hookup yesterday. But without further ado, let's get to it. Today's headlines and highlights.
Help your bottom line with today's highlights and headlines.
Jensen, what's going on with the Dodgers? We know they can slug, but all of a sudden they can't get anybody out. And we get a fourth straight loss as Arizona comes in there, and you get a couple bombs from Mookie and a bomb from Shohei. It's not enough, and Arizona gets the game one win. I mean, I know it's early, and I know it's right there. It's very tight standings there with those four teams in the NL West. But is there a bigger concern? Because when you keep buying up all the talent, you would think, well, we got plenty of arms. Do they have enough arms in L.A.? Could that actually be a situation, maybe a cause for some concern?
Buddy, there would be signs if I had to go out there and be an opener for Dave Robertson Company. I'd still do the show with you because it's what we do. We're professionals here. So you mentioned the tightening of the standings, and we'll get to the pitching because you are right. That's the biggest crux for them. 3 games now separate first through fourth place. Dodgers leading the Padres by a half game, 1 game over the Giants, 3 games over the Diamondbacks. And really, the statistics don't lie here. A lot of traffic on the base paths for this Dodger rotation. Dead last in walks per 9, 22nd in home runs per 9 allowed, 22nd in whip, and 25th in rotation ERA. The problem has been the injuries, and it's something you and I circled at the beginning of the year. I know a lot of people were looking at this win total of 103.5, 104.5, and I'm like, I don't think they have the horses to get there. I mean, they have the best offense. Okay, number 1 in average, number 1 in OPS, number 1 in runs, number 1 in home runs. But this goes back to our March Madness argument, Dave. We would rather have a team that could score in the 80s and 90s and the Alabamas and the Auburns of the world.
Right.
But at some point, you got to stop. You got to stop the opposing team, and I think that's something to watch for. Where it's not just having. I mean, they have 8 starters on the IL. 8 starters and here are the names, Dave: Glasnow, Sasaki, Snell, Emmett Sheehan, back into their bullpen guys that they were really going to rely upon, and Brusdar Graterol, Michael Kopech, Evan Phillips, Blake Trine, and Kirby Yates. You can only buy yourself out of so much of the injury bug, but it begins with this rotation trying to get some length because, man alive, they're going to be in a world of hurt. And the schedule don't get any easier. They finish Arizona, then they got to go play the Mets, and they got to go play Cleveland. So first and foremost, you're right. The rotation needs to be better start in and start out.
Fun to watch because they're scoring a lot of runs, but they're giving up a lot of runs here. So Arizona gets a nice 9-5 win to begin that one. So again, if you were laying it with the Dodgers, come up a loser last night, and that total soars over the 10.5 right now. Maybe overs are certainly a way to look at attacking the Dodgers going forward until they can get somebody out. We talked a little bit about Sonny Gray. Detroit, best team in baseball, all those things, and Sonny Gray. Boy, he did look pretty good yesterday, so I guess it was shining there in Detroit, in the Motor City. 10 Ks over 6 shutout innings, and they get a nice 11-4 win last night over Detroit. So all of a sudden, St. Louis, we talked about this, maybe the surprise team so far in the NL Central, that they just keep winning, and they did it again. And so right now, with the month of May, these two teams sit numbers 2 and 3 in the win totals, and St. Louis keeps it going. I keep waiting for them to come back, and Jensen, right now, they're just keeping this hot streak going.
Yeah, and even with Sonny Gray being as exceptional as he was, the over still hits in that game.
Right.
A play that I had given out to our VSiN Pro subscribers in the afternoon yesterday. So fortunate that got there because for a while it was looking like runs at a premium, at least from the Detroit side with the way Gray was pitching. Cardinals now just a game back of the Cubs, and the Cubs need to rally in Miami yesterday. They have a late surge to be able to get past the Marlins. Otherwise, this thing could be deadlocked here at the top of the National League Central. Now, the Reds winning over the Pirates yesterday continues to keep this thing a 3-horse race. The Brewers a little bit more on the outside, looking in 5 games back, but the Reds now 3.5. And so here's the biggest reason for the Cardinals side. Yes, they have had great starting pitching. They have had pretty much a league average bullpen. It's been the offense. They are second in batting average, and they are 7th in runs. And that, to me, is probably the biggest surprise, knowing that Paul Goldschmidt is not a member of this club, and Nolan Arenado, has really yet to kind of get going. And let me correct myself. Brandon reminded me that the Marlins actually walked off the Cubs, so this thing does tighten a little bit. Here's ultimately what I think. So we said that the Cardinals, honestly, if they're going to be in this thing, they would need a little bit better in the rotation. And right now, Dave, they're not striking out a bunch of people, but they're limiting traffic amongst the best in the league. So they got some staying power in that department. What does it look like here in a month or so, and particularly with this division race?
Yeah, it is amazing because I think we all thought the Cubs were going to put to bed the Marlins, that 2-run bottom of the ninth inning, get the walk-off double there for the Fighting Fish to fight back. And it does tighten up that division, Jensen, as you pointed out. I cannot imagine that the Cardinals, 1 game back, would really be the biggest threat to the Cubs the rest of the way. I mean, maybe this holds. Maybe it changed their outlook a little bit. For this was the team that was projected with Pittsburgh in some circles to be dead last in the division. So all of a sudden, I look at St. Louis and I go, 6 games over? Is this a mirage? Is this real? And then the Reds now with 5 wins in a row, and they get back over 500 with that win against the Pirates. And Jensen, what am I doing on a Monday night watching the Reds and Pirates play baseball? But
and you got money on it.
Exactly. And like looking up, when is Hunter Green coming back? I'm starting to look at it because the Cubs are going to get healthier. We understand that. I just look at the Cardinals and go, this is what it is so far. And I wonder if they change their strategy, if they're still in this mode, say a month from now, and they're still right there. I mean, a lot of baseball to be played to determine that. But I have to think all of a sudden if the Cubs get those reinforcements with pitching, they still do look like the class of the division. I wonder if it's a 3-horse race or even Milwaukee can get back in. They're 2 games under 500. Is this going to be at the end, a team that runs away with it in Chicago, or do you think it's going to be a 2-3-horse race?
Yeah, I think that's why we give it another month and kind of see now when the adjustments in the health are able to, at least in Chicago's arena from a rotation perspective, if they can get healthy in the rotation, that offense has been, very, very solid. Top run scoring offense in all of baseball. I mentioned Hunter Green. Terry Francona saying yesterday that he's likely back on Friday to make that start in the series opener at home against the Chicago Cubs. So again, you talk about showdown series, that'll probably be featured in our Daily Diamond. Let me interest you in an idea here for a division winner. So Cubs almost a $2 favorite to win the National League Central. Cardinals second betting choice 4-1. Brewers plus 650. Reds 10-1. you essentially, if you think the Cardinals win the Central, you might as well jump on the National League pennant number at 40-1 and then just find your hedge opportunities and monetize. 4-1, okay, great. But you would believe that in a short series, let's assume that whoever wins the East and wins the West, they'll have the top 2 records, thus getting the bye. So your Central winners, the 3 seed, they host that last wild card team. Essentially, if St. Louis wins that series, Dave, then you're in a pretty profitable spot to be able to hedge that National League pennant ticket.
Right there with you. By the way, I was the genius that got on the Reds a couple weeks ago at 9-1. It's up to 10-1. Could have just waited and got a better number, Jensen. But it's still sitting right there at 10-1 here for the Reds. But look, at least they've won 5 in a row. They're back on the right side of 500. So let's see if they can keep this winning streak going against Pittsburgh and maybe make things interesting there. We're going to find out how interesting things are going to be in the NBA, in the NHL. So some of those series tonight going to begin in hockey. Going to have the Panthers against the Hurricanes. T-Wolves is going to take on the Thunder here. We'll break down these games, Jensen, in a lot more detail as the show goes. But very quickly, any looks at the rest? Because I'm seeing some people think maybe the rest should help Carolina, let's say theoretically, and theoretically help Minnesota. Others think, hey, even though I just played a couple nights ago in those Game 7s, if you're either the Panthers and or OKC, that's okay and that momentum might be able to carry over.
I go back to our conversation, at least on the NHL front, with Rachel Dory yesterday, and it was great insight that she feels the Panthers overwhelmingly win this series. But if there were to be a single game advantage, it would be Carolina tonight in their own barn. So official play in pocket already for me, Hurricanes on the puck line plus 215. And traditionally, that's been the spot where they, in series openers, have been able to kind of flex their muscle a little bit. So anxious to see the legs here for the Panthers. If you think that Carolina gets the early lead first period, spread might be an interesting way to attack that. But let's see what happens on the ice tonight, my friend.
And Jensen, I got through the whole segment and didn't even mention that the Mets aren't in first place. How about that? Whole first segment. Much more to get to when we come back. It's the Daily Diamond next year at VSiN By The Books.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Tuned in to VSiN By The Books, right here on VSiN.
We are back. VSiN By The Books. Dave Ross, Jensen Lewis here on a Tuesday. Going to catch up with Matt Youmans in the very next segment. A lot to get to with Matt. We'll talk a little PGA, NBA. I think he might even have some questions for you about the Dodgers. We'll see about that coming up next year on the show. But a lot of baseball talk to get to. And without further ado, it's time for today's edition of the Daily Diamond. Jensen, they say youth will be served. Are we starting to see that across Major League Baseball?
Yes, some of the young guns really flexing their muscle. I know Wyatt Tomchek will absolutely love where we're going here. So a couple of the Rookie of the Year candidates, and actually both the front runners at this point in the National League and the American League, respectively. How about Drake Baldwin? If people remember, Dave, Sean Murphy got hurt at the beginning of the year before the Braves broke camp. And so the decision was made to go with the young kid and Baldwin to be the everyday catcher. Because Travis d'Arnaud no longer with the club. Well, it took him a while to get going, but now he is, and I mean absolutely rolling. Last 15 days, over a 500 average. And the same way for the Athletics, Jacob Wilson, their young rookie shortstop, has been absolutely phenomenal. If you want to look at one of the funky batting stances in all of Major League Baseball, that's a good one to go look at. But these kids, they've figured it out here, and they're hot right now. So we're going to ride it. Let's do this, Dave. Let's go a Jacob Wilson, Drake Baldwin to get a hit parlay, okay? Ooh. And then let's augment it a little bit. Let's go 2 total bases each for that parlay. I'll build it out here and give you an exact price. But both those young kids really swinging the bat quite well right now.
I believe why Tom Check's text to you and I, Jensen, was whatever the number is for Drake Baldwin for Rookie of the Year, you have to play it. So he's the short shot now, plus 370. Boy, have those numbers moved. A.J. Smith-Shawver is now the second betting choice at plus 380. Could there be a brave on brave, like which rookie deserves it more if it comes down to the two guys from the ATL?
I mean, it could, and it's funny you kind of bring that up because just kind of looking through and seeing where, we have a very similar spot with Spencer Schwellenbach from early in the season, right? He was the guy that everyone was looking at like, whoa, this guy is he could be that second coming of Spencer Strider. What embarrassment of riches, though, if the Braves can get everybody healthy and Strider now back off the IL, that's a pretty formidable rotation. Now, you don't want to hear that in Mets country, but man, that's how they had it drawn up here at the beginning of the season.
No, I do not want to hear that in Mets country. Now in second place, Mets country, now that the Phillies have overtaken them right now for first place after last night. All right, speaking of getting some of those arms out there, what's the call today?
All right, call to arms, very much up your alley here, and let's just go with the guys that have the heat seekers right now as far as the swing and miss department. Tarek Skubal, we highlighted him last week, and we might as well go right back to the well. Now, mentioned the Cardinals off the top of the show. Second best team batting average in Major League Baseball, so maybe one of the stiffest tests here for Tarek Skubal outside his opening day start against the Dodgers at Chavez Ravine. By the same token, Dylan Cease, who has pitched very well, is going against the Blue Jays north of the border. The Blue Jays actually have the second fewest strikeouts amongst American League teams. So we're going to dial these strikeout props back a little bit. Skubal usually in that 7.5, 8.5, where the line is as far as his over/under is concerned. Right now, Dave, if you look at where these lines are, we have Dylan Cease at 5.5. And it's shaded to the under at minus $1.20. So we're going to go with that 6, and we're going to parlay it with Tarek Skubal and buy down a little bit because his over-under is 7.5. And for good measure, it is plus 135 on the over, minus $1.80 to the under. So that's kind of what we wanted to buy down a little bit, knowing that both these offenses have actually been pretty good about putting the ball in play.
Very quickly, because you were again on fire yesterday with the Daily Diamond here. And ironic that it was you got home with a lot of the dog plays yesterday, right? Nico Horner got you home. Shohei with the big bomb gets you there. Freddie Freeman does it again. Trey Turner, great calls there. What is it that you've been looking for here, Jensen? Because you've been really on the mark here with looking for a lot of these total bases props.
Yeah, and again, Cody Decker kind of illuminated one of my big strategies. Total bases still remains probably the most profitable and the most consistent prop you can get. Just again, if you're looking at playing it over time, that's the way to go. And again, all it takes is a double to get you home or, 2 base hits. So for me, when you're looking at that hits, runs, or RBI prop, it's hard for me to go towards anyone bottom in the lineup or at least bottom third, just knowing you may lose that extra at bat to get it home. The only caveat, and that's why Spencer Steer is involved here, and he's probably going to be involved in Torpedo Bat Tuesday, some of those batter-pitcher matchups, Dave, are really convincing. It's just guys that see pitchers really well, and so that's hard to go away from. We went with Hunter Goodman, 2 or more total bases yesterday, just because he has been on absolute fire. But great job by Christopher Sanchez and company there in Philly to neutralize him. And then, hey, let's not reinvent the wheel here. You go for the top offenses. I mean, we're not trying to jumpstart anybody by putting money on them.
No.
We want to ride the guys that are hot, so let's stick with it and keep it pretty simple.
Another profitable night there, certainly on the diamond. Let's get to the college diamond as well, because I know you've got some future plays out there you think that might be actionable.
All right, so Cinderella season, much in our same respects as we look back to March Madness, where teams may need to run the table in their respective conference tournaments to get that automatic bid. So men's college baseball conference tournaments underway beginning tomorrow. Here are some of the leans that I would offer teams to target just because of where their bracket sets up. Now, Dave, I'll give the caveat too. There are some of these conferences, in particular the SEC and ACC, who have teams on double buys, so they don't play until Friday, okay? So they've got time off. So the Arkansas, LSUs of the world, they just have fewer games to play to be able to get to that championship game. So that's part of the handicap as well. and also they're really good. So Arkansas and LSU, two teams I would look at in the SEC. Georgia Tech, who has played very well, likely a host if they win a couple of games in this ACC tournament. NC State had been a really good team throughout the year. They've kind of struggled towards the back end, but also kind of that outside shot 6-1 to win the ACC. West Virginia, one of the great stories of the year in college baseball. They were phenomenal last year in winning the Tucson Regional. They and Arizona State there in the Big 12, I think, are places to look. The Big 10, and guess what? From football season, Dave, you're going to love it. It's the West Coast teams because they've been playing. They know how to do it this time of year. Joe Serralo's backyard, the UCLA Bruins, who likely will be a host spot there in L.A. Also USC, 7-1. That's a nice little price. Southern Miss, they've circled them in the Sun Belt. Southern Miss, we know from like a football perspective, that's a real fun team to watch. But from a baseball perspective this year, they have been really, really good. Troy is solid as well, 5.5 to 1. Big West for you West Coasters out there getting up early with us. Cal Poly, UC Santa Barbara. UC Santa Barbara has always been really, really good in college baseball. Our friend here, Shane Bieber, in Cleveland, a UC Santa Barbara guy as well. Conference USA, Western Kentucky, probably more known in their college football ranks in college basketball, has had an excellent season. Kennesaw State, 12 to 1. This is usually down there in Georgia. Kennesaw State is usually a good to even above average, maybe smaller school there in Division I. But man, they could get hot and get right and don't have too many games to play there in Conference USA. So those would be my leans as we begin Cinderella season here in men's college baseball.
I cannot wait for the College World Series. And by the way, VSiN's going to be a part of it. They're going to be hitting the road in June in Omaha. So we're going live from June 12th through the 14th. So that's going to be broadcasting straight from Rocco's, the iconic home of the Jello Shot Challenge. You can catch money moves, follow the money. Of course, Jensen, you're going to be there live from Omaha. So we're going to bring you the sights, the sounds, best bets from the tournament. So if you're in the neighborhood, stop by and say hello to the crew. That should be a lot of fun on the road for VSiN being in Omaha. To round out today's Daily Diamond, I have to ask you a question about Juan Soto and the Metropolitans. I alluded to it, the Phillies, their win last night. They overtake the Mets for first place. That's not the story I want to ask you about. It's Juan Soto not running. And then Carlos Mendoza said, we'll talk to Juan about that. The little things, as I always say, are the big things in life. Those little things drive me crazy. What does that conversation sound like for a guy making the money he's making in year number one in Queens?
Yeah, and I would imagine that there's already a couple of teammates that may have gotten in his ear, Francisco Lindor, potentially a Pete Alonso coming to him. But I think more Frankie on the Latin American side to say, hey, man, you're better than that. And also kind of the window dressing too here. I mean, Carlos Mendoza has to come out and say that they have to do that.
But he has to talk to him too, right?
Issue, though.
He's got to do it.
Yes.
He actually has to have that conversation,
Absolutely.
Right?
The bigger issue, Dave, and this goes back to Sunday Night Baseball. For people that don't know the backstory, he was supposed to be mic'd up. Apparently turned that down, maybe an hour, 90 minutes before the game. So, there's a lot of logistics going into this because you're micing up a guy who's playing live in a Sunday Night Baseball game in New York. So there's a lot of things that have happened.
Yeah.
Let's keep an eye on this the next handful of weeks because this dynamic is not going to go away.
Well said. That's the point. There's something here, and it needs to be addressed. You got to nip it in the bud here in New York for a guy that's going to be there for a long time with a whole lot of money. Matt Youmans joins the program. That is next here, VSiN By The Books.
You're tuned in to VSiN By The Books right here on VSiN.
We continue the Tuesday edition. It is VSiN By The Books. Dave Ross, Jensen Lewis here with you. Always love catching up with Matt Youmans. Give him a follow on X at MattYoumans247. Joins us now on the Progressive Guest Line. Of course, check him out on the network, VSiN Primetime, and the like. Matt, we got a lot to get to here, and I did want to start with kind of looking back, then looking ahead to the U.S. Open coming up here next month. But the PGA Championship is now in the rear view. Scotty gets his third major championship. Gets dicey, he's tied with Jon Rahm, then pulls away down the stretch for a 5-shot lead. It's no surprise he's already the betting favorite next month at Oakmont. What's your takeaway from it, betting perspective or bigger perspective for betting Scotty going forward?
Scotty was plus 450, and he was the shortest favorite to win a major since Tiger about 18 years ago.
Wow.
And I didn't think he was great, and especially Sunday when he shot even par 71. But he was just good enough, and he was, head and shoulders above the field when the whole thing ended. I have Bryson DeChambeau. He blew his shot on Saturday. It was amazing. Bryson went 8 under, and Scotty bogeyed to go 6 under. Bryson's got a 2-shot lead. And you're thinking, hey, all right, this is going to get good. Within 90 minutes after Bryson went bogey, double bogey, and hit his tee shot into the water on 17, Scotty, I think, was up 3 on him, and maybe had gone up 5 on him. And, of course, Bryson ends up tying for second. I was a little bit disappointed. But, again, it's to the point where Scotty went off at plus 450. He was tied for 20th after the first round and became a shorter favorite at plus 330.
That drives me nuts, Matt.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that drives me nuts. He gets off to a slower start, and the books won't adjust. It's so hard to get what I think is a playable number in the guy. That's the hardest thing to do, right?
It is. It's very difficult to do, and that's why, if somebody says we're betting Scotty Scheffler plus 450, I'm not going to make fun of him. You can't mock somebody because he's so good right now. And his number's not going to get longer during the tournament when he gets off to a slow start. So anyway, Oakmont in a month, the U.S. Open is going to be a very difficult setup. And I think you're going to be looking at the same guys again. You're going to be talking about Scotty, Bryson, maybe even John Rambo, who's worked his way back into the picture here as somebody you can consider. But again, I think it's going to be a top player who's going to win at the U.S. Open because that's going to be an extremely difficult course when we get there in a month.
It's about a couple-hour drive from where I'm at here, Matty, in Northeast Ohio. So Michelle and I may have to find our way over for By the Books on the ground there for that one. Speaking on the ground, we saw so many New York Knicks fans all over the place spilling outside of MSG after they clinched their spot in the Eastern Conference Finals. Set it up for us for the pro bettors that are going to be on this one, yourself included. How you see this series playing out?
By the way, you've got to go to the U.S. Open now.
Yes.
Now that you said it, you got to be reporting from the course for VSiN By The Books. It's something that's got to happen. All right. So I tell you what, this I don't think any of the 4 teams left in the NBA playoffs are great. And OKC's an odds-on favorite, but the Thunder had some flaws exposed here so far in the playoffs, especially being taken to 7 games by a Nuggets team that had 3 players. But as far as the Knicks go, I've always been a big Jalen Brunson guy. Going back to Villanova, I thought he could be an alpha dog, the guy who could get the Knicks over the top. This Knicks team a year ago against the Pacers was really beat up. Brunson, OG Anunoby, they had injuries. It was not a fair fight by the time we got to the 7th game. Well, both these teams are better. Pacers are incredibly efficient offensively at times. They're gonna push the Knicks to the limit here again. And I think Brunson and the Knicks are good enough to make this a long series. You got home court advantage. They got the more reliable point guard. Tyrese Halliburton, sometimes you don't know what you're going to get. You always know what you're going to get from Brunson. This is going to be a long series, so I'm going to play this 2 ways. Over 5.5 games at -170, and also taking a shot here on the Knicks, similar to what I did with the Nuggets in that series against the Clippers in the opening round. I took Nuggets plus 390 and 7 when they had a home court advantage. Knicks got home court, goes 7. Let's take Knicks and 7 at 4-1 odds. That's what DraftKings got up there right now. So if you take it over 5.5 games, it's a little bit of insurance, in case the Pacers do take the series. At least you got a winner there. Knicks and 7 at plus 400, because I do think this series is going to go at least 6, probably 7. And I'm looking forward to this. It's going to be a really good series.
I'll be looking to see if Halliburton's dad gets out there on the court there with all the famous New Yorkers that are going to be there. I got to ask you a little bit. I know you've got a question maybe for Jensen, because we were talking about the Dodgers here. Any concerns after the early part of the Major League Baseball season here for the boys in L.A.?
Yeah, Tim Murray and I did the primetime show last night, 4 hours, and we had 12 baseball games, and D-backs Dodgers was our game of the night. But I said, Yeah, be careful. Be careful here, thinking that the Dodgers are automatically going to bounce back off that 3-game weekend sweep by the Angels, which is embarrassing. You get swept at home. You're the best team in baseball. You get swept at home in 3 games by your crosstown rivals who aren't very good. And you can't automatically think a baseball team like this is going to bounce back, especially Dodgers started. It was kind of a bullpen game last night where they put an opener out there and then Landon Knack was going to pitch. I watched all 3 Angels-Dodgers games over the weekend, and Dodgers are not playing good baseball right now. Yoshinobu Yamamoto is going to go tonight. Is he going to be the streak stopper, Jensen, for the Dodgers? Because they've dropped 4 in a row. They've been favored in all 48 games this season. But I always say be careful betting against streaks, in baseball. And the Dodgers are streaking in the wrong direction right now. It's a big number tonight, minus 220. Could you play the Dodgers on the runs line, or you think the D-backs worth a look? The pitching matchup obviously favors the Dodgers.
Yeah, I would agree. And Matty, I think, and I've told Dave this a lot, sometimes with those heavy money lines, I like doing the -1s there. So it kind of gives you that, that tie no bet, if you will, and just gives you a little bit better juice there. I'll offer you an idea here because that division's so tight. And I have in pocket the Padres 13-1 to win the National League. I would start to look at other teams outside of the Dodgers, and particularly the Braves we talked about earlier, just from a pitching standpoint. I handicap the West by what staff, by the time we get to October, could be equipped to neutralize that lineup. Because if you keep that lineup right now to basically 3, even 4 runs, you're winning because that lineup, that staff is giving up at least 5 to 6. Now, will they get healthy? Yes. Will Andrew Friedman and Brandon Gomes go out and make deals at the deadline? Yes. But I think, Matty, if there's going to be a vulnerability, it is a long couple of postseasons here now and a lot of injuries to stud pitchers. So essentially, yes, you could get Glasnow and Snell back at the end of the year and be fine, but they still need time to stretch out. We don't know yet about Ohtani getting back on the mound than what he could look like. We would assume then he'll be fine. But I think there's more trepidation here, and I'm with you. I think more trepidation for the Dodgers' outlook than what we've seen in previous seasons.
Minus 370 right now to hold on and win the division. 10 games still over 500. It's just how good everybody else has been in the division. And with those pitching issues, maybe giving you some pause. Very quickly, Matt, I got to ask you about some college football because we're getting closer and closer seeing those numbers populate here for week 1 and beyond. But you're looking at the in the futures market there. Do you have a play already for the Heisman?
Yeah, you know what? Here at VSiN, we're going to be rolling out the NFL preseason guide probably in about 6 weeks and the college football guide later in the summer. There's a lot of work to do in college football with all the transfers and everything. But I'll tell you what, I've got a source in Austin, Texas, who's been to practice, and I've been reading a lot about Arch Manning. And he's put on several pounds of muscle. He's 6'4", 225. He's mobile. Apparently he's way ahead of where he was this time a year ago. And this Texas team's going to be good. Longhorns open the season at Ohio State. That's going to be one of those big stage games. And if the Longhorns win it and Manning plays well, he's going to be down to about, a plus 250, 3-1 favorite to win the Heisman. I was at the Westgate Superbook last night, and I said, let's take a shot. You look at the competition, I'm not sure who's going to emerge, but I think Arch Manning is worth a shot to win the Heisman at 8-1 odds right now. I think DraftKings might have plus 750 or something around that number, but I took 8-1. I think there's a chance Arch Manning will even stay in school 2 more years. That's why I wouldn't bet him necessarily be the number 1 pick in the 2026 draft. He might stay at Texas 2 years. He's making $6 million this year, the quarterback at Texas. So there's no urgency to leave college and go to the NFL if he's not, if he feels like staying in college. I think the better bet might be Arch to be the Heisman winner at 8-1 instead of being the number 1 pick in next year's draft. And every report I've heard and read is that he's going to be the real deal when you see him start for Texas in the fall.
Arch is making what they call Shedeur Sanders money at Texas this year, apparently.
Yeah.
Matt,
highest player in college football. Yep.
Matt, very quickly, burying the lead. How'd you shoot on Sunday? Did you hit him straight?
I shot 88, which is not great. First time out this season, Super Dave, I shot 82, and I got worse the second time out. So That's typically the way it goes, right? Golf is a mental game. If you start to think too much, you get worse.
Do. And there he is, everybody. Matt Youmans. Give him a follow. Matt Youmans 247. Check him out on VSiN Primetime.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
You're tuned in to VSiN By The Books, right here on VSiN.
Great conversation in the last segment with Matt Youmans. Dave Ross back here with you and Jensen Lewis. And Jensen, it's funny just talking to Matt about his round of golf and 82 first time out, then 88. It's like I've never broken 80, shot an 80. Are you one of those guys that's chasing it? Like, because golfers always chase, and I think that's like Bryson DeChambeau. They're what is it? They're always trying to break 59, break 60. I think is this thing that he's got. It's different for whatever number you're trying to break. But for a professional athlete like yourself, does your mentality say, I got to master this like I mastered baseball?
I was trying for years to get rid of the baseball swing, hitting fungos to my infielders. So you want to talk about being so rotational that, the power fade is, all of the ideas to try and straighten the ball out and trying to get it to go where you want to go instead of having to aim left, right.
Yeah.
So it's always there. We said we are a psychiatrist's worst nightmare. We play the most difficult sport for a living. And then for fun, we play the second most difficult sport in golf. So, we keep some of those psych doctors in business trying to unravel our mental state day in and day out.
That's what athletes do, right? Even ones like myself that fancy ourselves as athletes, we keep chasing that illusion that's always out there for perfection because you're never going to get it in golf, but that's what makes it great. By the way, you want to check out and get a good start to your day, go to VSiN.com each and every morning. Greg Peterson does not sleep. That's why he's got his Major League Baseball picks already up there for you. Steve Makinen is all ready to go for the NBA and the conference finals. Those trends, Zachary Cohen, he's been on fire. Wolves, T-Wolves, great preview there for Game 1 tonight. And then, of course, today, JD has got you covered, the Iceman, with the conference finals getting ready to go. Wes Reynolds, we're going to have Wednesdays with Wes tomorrow. Charles Schwab Challenge preview. Surprise, Scotty Scheffler is a betting favorite. Adam Burke's going to have his Major League Baseball best bets. They're all there for you when you go to VSiN.com/subscribe. 14 months of VSiN Pro for just $199 when you use the promo code PRO. So check that out today. We mentioned the NBA and the NHL. Let's get into that a little bit, Jensen, here with the T-Wolves and the Thunder, because it is interesting when we talked about it a little bit off the top of the show. It's a similar handicap for these two game ones to start in hockey and basketball. There's rest for one team, and some people like that you're going to come in with the rest. That would be Minnesota, wrapping up their series very early and waiting for OKC, who had to play on Sunday in Game 7. Now, they don't have to travel. They've got home court, so game number 1 is going to be back there at the Paycom Center in OKC. They're 7.5-point favorites in this one. Total's interesting to me. 216. And Minnesota sometimes can be offensively challenged, not saying Anthony Edwards can't go off, but sometimes the way they play it could be a little bit slower. Are you going to be looking for pace early? Like, which pace do you think people would prefer? I'm assuming OKC wants to get up and down, even though they had the longer series. And I think Minnesota, if they're playing in the half court, I think they're okay with that.
Yeah, so an intriguing spot here. No official plays just for me, but I did write down a couple of leans. I do like the over tonight, 215.5. We'll wait to see if there's a bit more of our betting splits that maybe discern whether to lock that in. I circled the Thunder on the spread, and even more so just because, it feels like they dodged their bullet here. They did what they had to do to get through Game 7 and in a convincing fashion. But I think the more that I look at it, and I believe it's already ticked up to 216 here on both DraftKings and Circa, you feel that where just the numbers are in and of themselves. Offensively, Shea should be able to get it. And I think yesterday was a great point of who's going to guard him in the backcourt. I think Will Hill brought that up, and I really like that angle too. So from a scoring standpoint, you talked about it yesterday about the Anthony Edwards angle. He's going to want to prove that he is, one of the studs, if not the guy left in these playoffs. Shea probably going to win the MVP, also going to have that in the back of his mind, like, okay, I've yet to really kind of have my breakout performance. Do we get that here in game one? I'd love nothing more than to see a back and forth between those backcourts respectively. And, let's see where we are. So yeah, the total feels low considering what these teams usually do. So if you go back and look per game, they combine for right around 235 points. So, I mean, you're a 20-point differential on where the total is. So again, it would lean to wanting to just take the over, and some of the data, Dave, already lending us to that spot here. But I would say that's where I lean, and I lean the Thunder to get it done at the -7.5 number.
When you look at the series price here, and you got to lay over $3 if you want to play OKC to win this series against Minnesota, could you make the case, Jensen, that the toughest opponent, and they can only obviously play 2 of the 4 remaining here, would be Minnesota? I'm not saying that they would cakewalk either the Knicks or the Pacers, but if you believe that to be true, that their toughest test is actually to get out of the West, instead of laying the 330, would you look to the $1.45 price tag to win the whole thing? Or, look, a lot of things can happen in a series, right? Guys can get hurt. We've seen it up and down the playoffs. So there's a real possibility and a danger of saying, I'd rather play the shorter number on OKC to win the whole thing at $1.45 without knowing and theorizing they're going to have good health as they've had. Other teams have not. Is that the only caution? Because I do think they'd be a bigger favorite potentially against the Knicks and or Pacers.
So just for this series, Dave, I would go the exact result. I would go a 4-2 or a 4-3. You're going to win either way as long as it gets to 6 games and Oklahoma City wins. So if you feel that the Thunder is the side here as a pretty convincing series favorite to open, then I would go. I think we'd all be shocked. And I don't even know if I'm interested in a 3-1 a plus 300 on a 4-1 series exacta for the Thunder. And again, we tried to find this with the Pacers and the Cavaliers. Like, there's no way this one ends early.
Right.
Maybe if the Cavs just come out and just gangbusters, okay. I don't think we see a gentleman's sweep here, right? I on either side. And again, even if on the flip side, 17-1, if the T-Wolves shock the world and go a 4-1 series, I don't think any of us envision that either, if we're being fair and considering some of the outliers that could be there. So if you want, then I would say you play either, the Thunder, the exact at 4-2 for almost plus 475.
Yeah.
Or you play the Thunder to win it at 7 at plus 370.
Yeah, I like that. Much better than laying these big price points here. Certainly 330 is what you have to lay for OKC to win the series. We mentioned the same scenario does exist in the NHL in game number 1 between the Hurricanes and the Panthers tonight in Carolina. And it is interesting that on the money line, Carolina is the favorite at minus $1.19, even though the Panthers, and they don't have home ice here, the reigning defendings. Carolina does. But yet the Panthers are still the semi-big favorite here in the series by $1.25, $1.30 out there in the marketplace. And yet Carolina is the favorite in game 1. That gets back to our handicap of one team has rest, Carolina. One team does not, Florida. Now, you could make the case that the third period there in Toronto was kind of a 20-minute skate in the park, right? That thing was kind of decided. I know you're still going, full out. You got to make sure you wrap that thing up in that 6-1 win. How does that affect it? Because it wasn't tense. It wasn't an overtime scenario. It wasn't, clenched teeth and knuckles to get that done if you're Florida. Does that give them a little bit more energy in game 1 tonight? Or maybe they don't even need that excuse because it's still game 1 of an Eastern Conference final?
I still go back on where they've been that overlooked club, the Hurricanes have, and kind of showing that they will play with that chip on their shoulder. I do think we get a Panther team that might have a slight amount of fatigue, and does that allow the Hurricanes to get that multi-goal victory? That's where I lean, and plus 215 on the puck line was too good to pass up. I felt that if there was going to be a game in which Carolina kind of imposes their will here, this is it. Obviously, go back to what Rachel Dory said yesterday. Teams that continue to kind of keep playing and don't have the extended rest, sometimes they're in a better spot. We know that Sergei Bobrovsky has looked phenomenal here towards the end of the series against the Maple Leafs. That being said, Carolina, their barn, they know they're being overlooked right now. I like the motivation. I like them to win by 2 or more.
Yeah, and again, if you like Carolina tonight, and I know this is where you're looking, Jensen, hop back in maybe on Florida. If this goes the way of the Hurricane tonight, that number that we talked about at $1.25, $1.30, that could be even money. Maybe even Carolina flips to a small favor. I don't know if I see that out there, but that could be interesting after game one if you think Florida gets their sea legs after this game tonight, no matter what happens down there in Carolina. By the way, with the NBA playoffs in full swing, of course, as we're getting to the Eastern and Western Conference Finals, Profit X, our partner there, they're ready to roll, and they've been doing so all playoff season long. They're a peer-to-peer sports exchange available in 40 or more states right now. Right now, you're going to be able to make your picks against other groups of fans rather than other sports books. So Exchange guarantees are the best rates out there. Better odds by average of up to 10 to 20%. So you can even request your own odds. Download ProfitX today. Use the code VSIN. Earn up to $200 in profit cash over your first month once you sign up, and do so today. When we come back, we'll get to our highlights and headlines to begin hour number 2 right here on VSiN By The Books.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.